so much of the innovation that we look at during the course of our reporting focuses on ingredient or product or brand. But one of the ongoing themes for the next couple of days is that there are many spaces in which an entrepreneur is relying on, in fact, building a business around new tools and strategies to get around the blockages that can exist in the existing system. Retailing online, finding alternative distribution methods, hacking together a team, reaching an increasingly mobile consumer. Zak Normandin is taking on many of these problems with his new company, Iris Nova. Now, I've been covering this space for about 14 years, and so that makes me a fairly old dog. And if you look around the beverage business on the whole, it's got a lot of old dogs. And even those old dogs we'll hear from today and tomorrow are trying to learn some new tricks. And that's why we have Zak Normandin here to teach us about them.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Good morning. I have a lot of information to get through here, so I'm going to try to speak fast and be very concise. So I'm the founder of Iris Nova. We're a technology company, and we do a lot of these presentations, and we talk about our products and the things that we're making. But what we're going to focus on today, just given the audience, is technological innovation in the beverage space over the last 100+ years. Because as a technology company, we look at what's happened in the past and obviously what's happening in the future, not looking at a playbook or necessarily anything that, not looking to replicate anything that's been done in the past, but looking to optimize and make things more efficient for the future. So here we go. So in the late 1700s, a very common medical remedy or something that doctors would give to their patients would be naturally effervescent water. And the source of that water, in a lot of cases, came from volcanic springs. So it would be naturally effervescent water. They would source that water, they would bring it to a pharmacy, and they would give that to their patients. And Joseph Priestley, in the late 1700s, started thinking about ways to artificially carbonate water. And this is the first time ever that water was being produced in a sparkling format that was not natural sparkling water coming from the earth. So that patent was filed, and that was 1772. In 1780, Joseph Schwepp basically was really fascinated by that. Joseph was a jeweler and watchmaker and was fascinated by this process and really wanted to scale it. He wanted to take this this artificially carbonated water, and he wanted to put it in bottles, and he did that. So he basically perfected the process of bottling his sparkling water, Schweppes, and he put it in a clay bottle that had to be transported horizontally. It had a cork top stopper, and it actually had to be transported submerged underwater because clay is porous. So they were trying to really solve for keeping as much carbonation inside the bottle as possible. And then in 1807, Philip Physick was the first doctor to start adding flavors to carbonated water. So this started to become a little bit of a craze in Europe and then in America. This idea of sparkling water becoming something that could be both functional and have flavor and be used for refreshment. It was actually, I believe, Schwepp that said when they first created their product that it would be great for if you have a dry throat after speaking for a long time, or if you need hydration, or after a long night of dancing. And there was like all of these different, use cases for this sparkling water, which before this time no one had access to. So Philip Physick creates a flavored sparkling water. He charged his patients $1.50 for a month's supply of this sparkling water, and he gave it to them for stomach ailments. Fast forward, mid-1800s, this idea of a soda fountain becomes really very popular. So the soda fountain oftentimes existed inside of a pharmacy, and it would be the combination of basically a carbonation unit, which Samuel Feinstock created in 1819, and then they would have a variety of different syrups and chillers and different things to basically be able to provide a beverage to a consumer or a client in more of a personalized setting, similar to a bar, but this is the 1840s. So also around this time and around the world, a lot of brands started popping up. So the first flavored branded beverage that was outside of pharmacies was Grattan's Ginger Ale, which was in Belfast, Ireland in 1851. They created a ginger ale product, and that's often credited as the first branded soft drink in the world. After that, we have one of the big challenges that a lot of these manufacturers were trying to solve for was how do we keep the carbonation in the bottle? They were always trying to figure out how the carbonation could be kept in the bottle. And the cod neck bottle was something that Here and Cod developed in 1872, and it had a marble inside of the bottle, which basically provided a secondary seal, in addition to the cork stop topper or the cork topper on the top of the bottle. But that was really one of the first glass bottles that was produced at scale. Hires Root Beer came in 1876. And this idea of a soda apparatus, which is a crazy name, started to become a very relevant thing culturally and socially. So James Tufts creates the largest and most magnificent soda water apparatus in the world. And I have photos of that on the next slide. But if you read this card here, I mean, it's very extravagant, very grandiose in the way that it's described. And it's because soda was becoming a very big part of society. And so anyways, 1885, Dr. Pepper's created. 1886, Coca-Cola's created. And these are mostly pharmacists in pharmacies that are creating these products, which I'll get back to that after, but it's really interesting to note that the connection was personalized, and it was between basically a customer and someone who's making a product. And a lot of these beverages were intended to be functional from the point that they were created. This is the soda water apparatus. So it consisted of these large chiller columns that were filled with ice, carbonation units, syrups, and then you'd have bartenders that would come around on the inside of the photo on the left and actually serve you soda at each of these units. So these were in Boston. James Tufts was in Boston, but they sold these units all around the world. And because of this, I mean, soda really started taking off in the early 1900s. One big advancement, the crown bottle cap, was something that allowed basically the carbonation to stay inside of a glass bottle without the use of a cork. So these were crimp tops, very similar to or exactly the same as the crown tops that we use now on soda bottles. 1898, Pepsi Cola is created. 1899, this is the first bottle blower. So before this time, they would actually melt glass and pour it into a mold, and that's the way they would create a bottle. These were actually blown bottles, so obviously you're still using liquid glass, but it's being blown, into a blow mold. Early 1900s, the Model T is created, and before this time, beverages were actually transported on horses in carriages. The introduction of the Model T specifically allowed beverages to be transported long distances and in much larger quantities to consumers all over the place. 1923, Coca-Cola invents a method of taking bottles that you would buy at a store home as a six-pack, which sounds crazy, but the six-pack carrier was a massive part of basically this movement to really take branded bottle beverages and bring them to many different points of distribution. And similarly, if you look at this vending machine from 1929, which was another Coca-Cola development, this was all on the honor system. So they would take these coolers and put them outside of retail stores. And basically, the way that it works is on the inside of this bin, on the top portion, there's a bunch of bottles that were kind of lined up like a revolver, like a gun. And as you turn that crank, basically, it would advance the wheel to the next bottle, and then you could take that bottle out. You'd open up the bottle on the side there. The cap would fall down, and then when you were done drinking it, you would put it into the bottom there. So it was a fully, enclosed or self-sustaining, the whole unit there. Cold bottles, open up the bottle, put it in there when you're done. And since they put these outside of stores, and they were relying on people, it was all in the honor system to basically go inside and say that you took the bottle, which is really interesting because we developed a retail concept and it's all in the honor system as well. And as I was doing this research, I just found out about this vending machine. 1935 is the first time that color labels were applied to bottles. They were actually baking the paint onto the bottles, and there wasn't many colors on the bottles in the early 1900s. 1935, the first beer can. So Kruger's was the first ale in a steel can to be released. At this time, you had to use a church key can opener to open up cans. 1937. So Coca-Cola at this time did not have coin-operated vending machines. So this machine from 1937 was distributed to 5,000, or they made 5,000 of them, and they distributed them to military bases around the world. And at that time, Coca-Cola committed to give soldiers and members of the military free Coca-Colas. So all they'd have to do is go up to and because they were located on bases, it was obviously limited distribution to members of the military. They would come up to it, they would pull the handle, they would grab a bottle out. It wasn't until 1946 that the first coin-operated machines started to come into distribution. 1952, Tetra Pak is introduced. 1959, you have the Pop Top, which is the soda can top that we know now that was developed. 1973, Nathaniel Wyeth creates the first PET bottle that can withstand carbonation. And around this same time, so SodaStream, not many people know this, but SodaStream was the company was created in 1903. SodaStream in the 70s and 80s, especially in Europe, was a very popular nostalgic thing. This idea of being able to basically enjoy a carbonated beverage at home. So I have a very quick video here, which is a commercial from 1980 on SodaStream.
Hey, an unexpected scene, so get busy with the fizzy with SodaStream. Big or small, get busy with the fizzy, short or tall. Crave a fizzy flavor with water from the tap. Press the magic button, shake it, voila. Mix a little mixer, add a little dash. No trouble with the bubbles, splish a little splash. It's an endless stream, so get busy with the fizzy, SodaStream. That's fizzy.
So in the 80s, and this was really the heyday of soda. So before 1970, coffee was the number one drink in America. It was coffee, soda, and milk. And very quickly, in 1977, soda becomes the number one beverage in America, the number one consumed beverage. And you have what they call the Cola Wars. So you have the Pepsi Challenge, all of these different flavors of soft drinks that came out. You have New Coke. You have Coke and Pepsi really battling over who has the best beverage. And through that period, I'm going to run out of time, so I got to move fast. So through that period, soda really takes over as the beverage of choice for almost all Americans. I mean, and it was through that traction and through that development over that period that Coke and Pepsi really became the global leaders that they are now. That was really the heyday of soda. One advancement, and this is in 1983, and so they're all thinking about different ways to get different points of distribution with all their customers. The talking vending machine was a big deal when it was released, and that was in 1982. In 1983, they started incorporating all these different things into vending machines, basically so that they could present a more engaging experience to consumers. And this is a quick commercial from 1983, which is very, very nostalgic and interesting, that we're going to watch really fast.
Hi, I'm a talking vending machine for Coca-Cola. Make your selection, please.
It's been only a year since vending machines began talking in Hawaii, and less than a week since they began imparting messages.
Keep your community clean and get cash when you recycle aluminum cans.
But beginning next month, they'll have yet another feature to give you more for your money, a miniaturized electronic game.
It's called the Catch a Coke game, and there's a small monkey up in a palm tree throwing Coke cans down to the Coke driver down below. The object of the game is to using these two small control buttons to make the Coke driver down below run back and forth to catch those tiny Coke cans that the monkey is tossing out of the palm tree. And if you're good, you catch every one, but if you miss one, like that, he laughs at you. Twice.
The grandparents of these high-tech entries seem primitive by comparison, as with all things new.
Vending is a big segment of our business, and it's important to us, and so all of the things that we can do to make it a little bit more interesting, a bit more fun for the consumer, that's better. It's fun, too, it really is.
And that's it. All fun, no money, no free drinks if you win. But one thing inventors have yet to come up with are machines which can refund money and take service complaints. With technological advances bombarding our lives, it's conceivable that that problem could be solved soon.
Thank you for using the talking vendor. Come again.
Wayne Yoshioka, KITV 4 News.
All right, so that's 1983. It's hard to believe that's 36 years ago now that technology was that simple. So we moved to the 2000s now. So through the 90s, soda is very similar to the 80s. There weren't a lot of advancements. 2006 comes along. It's the first time that Amazon allows beverage products to be sold on the website. So that's 2006. Then 2009, Pepsi introduces the Freestyle machine. 2014, Coca-Cola introduces Freestyle. Pepsi introduces the Spire. And you start to see this shift toward personalization and toward trying to figure out how to basically offer more relevant options to the modern consumer. One thing that is really fascinating is that stat that I was talking about before, which is that in 1977, basically it shifted from coffee being the #1 beverage to soda. From 1977 till 2016, carbonated soft drinks were still the most consumed beverage in the United States. And it wasn't until 2016, the first year, that bottled water overtook carbonated soft drinks as the beverage of choice. And then we start to think about different ways of distributing products to consumers. So this is the last video, and it's very, very fast. But this is a concept that Pepsi is working on right now, which is basically a bot that delivers products directly to you, healthy products. So apparently, they were piloting this at a university in California. Apparently, one of the bots caught on fire in a courtyard or something like that, and the students ended up having a eulogy for the bot because they loved it so much. So, there's been this shift now to basically to current day in really thinking about how do we personalize options, how do we get products to consumers in more relevant ways, how do we bring the products to them, and I like to think a real we're going back to really where the beverage industry started, which was in this idea of that one-on-one connection with the consumer. That back in the 1800s and 1900s, it was pharmacists that had that relationship with their clients. So the global beverage industry, non-alcoholic, is expected to reach almost $2 trillion by 2021, which is an incredible number. So if you look at the beauty industry, the mattress industry, the razor industry, the pick an industry, none of them are as big as beverage. It's absolutely the most compelling opportunity in consumer, from my perspective. 68% of millennials are expected to buy all of their, 68% of millennials are expected to buy all of their food and beverage products online by 2020, which is a staggering number. So you look at, I remember walking in the grocery store with my mom. We would walk every aisle. We would pick up, cereal and milk and bread and eggs and all that stuff. Now I have 3 children. They don't go to the grocery store the same way. Like we'll go maybe, once in a while, but most of our groceries are delivered now. And we go to the farmer's market to get vegetables, and then we'll go to a specialty market to get meat or whatever. But people aren't shopping every aisle of the grocery store like they used to. And I think that they're coming to expect that their food products are going to be delivered to them. So this is the way that Coke and Pepsi have historically operated. So they have the bottlers, and then they have retailers, and then they have customers. And I think that that's a very antiquated way of reaching your consumer, is going through a lot of middlemen and then selling your product. What we've developed at Iris Nova is a way to connect with consumers and sell products at scale without the assistance of distributors or brokers or retailers. So this is a brand new way of selling products and much more efficient, because we're cutting out all of the different layers that actually, I think, take away from the customer experience. So Iris Nova, at the parent level, we're bundling technology, data, operational infrastructure, and innovation around products. So our first beverage, Dirty Lemon, we've been building for the last few years. It's proof of concept in this model. We have a retail concept called the drugstore, which is a place that we're collecting data at around consumption behavior in the beverage space and using that data to better inform our decisions around new products that we're launching. And then we're making investments in beverage brands, and then we're creating new brands internally with the intention of creating a portfolio of brands just like Coke and Pepsi, with a focus on data and using data to better connect with consumers, because we think that that's what the modern consumer is looking for. They want to have a choice in the products that they're consuming. And to that end, with the Dirty Lemon brand, we're launching one new beverage every month this year. So every 30 days, we have a new product come out. Brand new flavor profile, brand new packaging, the whole thing. And that speed and that ability to react to the market is exclusively because we don't have retailers in the mix. We can create a product, we sell it to our customers, we sell out of a production run in 2 or 3 hours sometimes. Real quick, I'm running out of time. This is the way the system works. So we've developed a platform that operates over text messages, all over messaging. You text us anytime. We have a combination of bots and live customer service that handle your order. In a couple text messages, you can place an order, and we deliver same day or next day everywhere in the United States. So you're getting your product extremely fast. And that's it. Text us.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
We have
Should
time.
we sit there?
Yeah, we have time for just one quick question. I'm hoping you can talk to us a little bit about your relationship with Coke. Are you their tech partner or their beverage partner? How do you fit into their strategy and they into yours?
So I think we're both learning a lot from each other. My attraction to Coke and the reason why we wanted to partner with them was because they've built an incredible operational infrastructure, globally that we look to recreate. So I think while, obviously we're very early stage right now, there's a lot that we can learn from Coca-Cola and the way that things are done. And I do think that there's a lot of inefficiency of that model, but I do think that there's an incredible amount of things that we can learn. And I think that they feel the same way. I mean, I think that we're learning from each other right now. And yeah, it's been a great few months. We just closed the investment in December, so.
What are some of the key disruptive tech tools that you think some of our entrepreneurs here should be using?
If I was launching a beverage company from scratch right now, I would think completely outside of the framework that exists for beverage companies right now. Like we're just at a place where consumers are desensitized to advertising. I do not think that advertising works in the same way as it used to with consumers and brands. I do think that there's so many options. I mean, there's hundreds of beverage brands all the time, or that are being offered to consumers all the time. And yeah, we're operating under a thesis that billion-dollar brands won't exist in the future. We don't think that brands are going to have the ability to get to that scale. And maybe some will, and I think that for the ones that do, that's great, but that shouldn't be the expectation moving forward. And that's why we're building operational infrastructure that supports the rapid creation of products that meet the needs of consumers. So I think having this convergence of technology and just really thinking innovatively about the space, obviously while recognizing what the fundamental things of building a beverage company. Go ahead.
So it's hitting specialized audience along the long tail?
Say that once more.
Is the focus to hit a specialized audience along the long tail of consumer needs?
No, I mean we want the vision is to have millions of customers underneath the platform and be offering them a variety of different beverage products that fit their needs, all with data pooled at the parent level. So as we acquire customers, part of our investment strategy is to invest in brands and then give them access to all the customers that we've acquired. So we have almost 200,000 customers now that have been purchasing Dirty Lemon products, and it's an incredible value add and resource for an early stage brand that's maybe selling in one region to be able to have access to those customers and immediately be able to scale their distribution nationally.
Absolutely. Hey, good luck acquiring more of them.
Thank you so much.